Welcome to Exhuming the Truth, the podcast where we delve into the mysterious worlds of cold cases, missing persons, true crime, and the fascinating science that is forensics. I'm forensic scientist and criminologist Asher Walther, and I am so thrilled to have you with me on this journey as we dance in the shadows of the world of crime, shining a light on scientific discovery while becoming another voice for those who need it most. So grab a drink and get comfortable while we jump into this episode together. This podcast is recommended for persons over the age of 18 and contains explicit content not suitable for minors. We will be covering sensitive content that ranges from sexual assault, physical, mental, social, and emotional abuse, suicide, homicide, murder, attempted murder, and other violent crimes, including crimes involving weapons and drugs. This often extends to drug misuse and other harmful and illegal activity. If you find any content to be distressing, I have listed a number of resources that may be able to help you in the podcast notes. I'd also like to remind our listeners that all victims and all perpetrators are someone's loved ones, so I ask that in any discussions in our group or on our social accounts that you remain respectful of that at all times, and by listening today you acknowledge that all persons of interest remain innocent until proven otherwise. Hello beautiful people and happy Tuesday. While we are on the topic of content warnings and going over explicit content, so that's content for people over the ages of 18. So if you are here, we can safely infer that you're an adult, and our content is made for people over 18 because of what we talk about and what we discuss. And I also like to assume that if you're here and you're an adult, you know how to act like an adult responsibly, both in person and online. So I just want to extend that a little bit in saying your comments, and even when you're giving feedback and things like that, keep things respectable. I've had a couple of issues online lately with some negative trolling going across, the same people going across various accounts. That's not okay. I won't tolerate it. I won't go into who it is because I honestly don't know who they are, but it is the same people, and I just have a zero tolerance, okay, for anything like that. I'm not even going to give warnings. It's one and done, that's it. Obviously, this is a minority, and it's the first time that it's happened, and it was bound to happen because being on the internet, unfortunately, makes people feel like they can do that sort of thing. And I have mostly really, really great people who are listening and joining in. But I've started to post frequently on TikTok, as that seems to be where it's at for a lot of the younger people these days. And I'll continue on Facebook as usual because that's nice and simple. But I somehow reached the amount of people on TikTok following the ETT page that people now also argue in the comment section. And I want to say two things about that. So first of all, I'm loving the filtered comments and anti-bully situation going on over at TikTok. I know I'm late to the party, but I think that's a really great start to safer social media and protecting people's mental health. And it's great for our next generation. So safer social media is always great. So shout out to whoever implemented that. But second, there's a lot of hardcore true crime fans out there, and it can be super overwhelming. But I do appreciate the dedication, and like I always say, constructive conversations are always welcome at ETT, even if they're a little bit controversial. As long as it's done respectfully, we have space for your conversations. But yeah, as I was saying in regard to bullying and negative comments, you guys are adults. So I'm not going to be saying, oh, tone it down, or, we'll have to remove you. It's one and done, okay? We know how to act. We know what's offensive. We know what's rude. So sorry to start on such a downer, but I had to get that out there because I have lost so many friends to mental health, and I just won't tolerate it. While we're on that, I'm going to say I'm going to try and add a chapter note so that people can skip over the introductions that a few people are sick of and bored of listening to. I would love it if you could listen to the housekeeping, but I understand if you're here just to listen to the content. But as long as everybody's on the same page, then hey. On a much lighter note for housekeeping this week, I got a new car yesterday, which was awesome and exciting. And yeah, I have not had a car this new where it's like a push button start and stop. So I'm getting a bit used to that. I'm still trying to find my rhythm with that. It's very space age in my mind. I'm always trying to grab the keys out. But I love my car. I got a new Nissan X-Trail and the kids love it. So that's good. That's about all for housekeeping, you guys. I just wanted to make sure everybody's being respectful of one another. I don't really have anything else new to report, but picking up from where we left off. Okay, so when we last spoke and we were doing the Pheobe Bishop episode, we went over right from the beginning when Phoebe first went missing, which was the 15th of May 2025. So we spoke about her two housemates, Tanika Bromley and James Wood, and how Tanika was taken to court over weapon possession charges. You might remember me saying that that was not her first rodeo in regard to weapons charges. Tanika previously held charges that related to weapons such as a sawn-off shotgun and carrying a knife. That was back in March. I don't know if in the last episode I got to say, but May the 19th, authorities did a land search along Bundaberg's Airport Drive and surroundings. I just wanted to throw that in there because there's been heaps of comments online about why didn't they search that area, but they did. I just don't think they televised that much. So that was the initial alleged area that the housemates claimed to have dropped Phoebe to, but nothing was found. So come May 20th, and the police are holding a media conference where they're seeking information about the vehicle in question, which is that 2011 grey Hyundai iX35 hatch that was reportedly seen on Airport Drive. So if we go from May the 21st, okay, this was the day that they established the vehicle and the residence as the two separate crime scenes. At this stage, most of the appeals to the public are requesting any footage of that Hyundai in the Bundaberg Airport Drive area and the area of Samuel Road, and then also the Gin area around the residence. So basically any footage that anybody could provide is what they're searching for in regard to that vehicle. Then May 23rd, Phoebe's mum actually spoke out and she was urging people to stay close to their loved ones and was visibly distraught, as we can understand. But then that afternoon at a police press conference, it was revealed that they were searching the Goodnight Scrub National Park bushland and waterways. So we covered a bit of that last time. But since we last spoke, Monday, May the 26th, the police said that they had expanded their search area in the Goodnight Scrub area and that they believed that evidence had been there at one point but had been moved. Now, when they made this call, it was grim. I felt like she was there at some point and then she was moved because, as we know, it's incredibly common, in fact, more often than not, that offenders actually return to their victims, right? So that's where my mind was at this point. I don't know how everyone else was feeling, but I didn't feel good at all about it when they made that statement. So I decided to then keep alerts on from the QPS, which is just the Queensland Police Service, on their official releases and what have you, because once that statement was made, I felt like they were super close and that they had, tying evidence. So come Tuesday, May the 27th, they suspected the Goodnight Scrub search. They suspended the Goodnight Scrub search. So that was a total of 5 days. Yeah, a total of 5 days searching for Phoebe and or her items or any items of interest in the Goodnight Scrub area, okay? Wednesday, the 28th of May, they announced that they would no longer be conducting any physical searches for Phoebe. So this might have been quite an alarming statement, but usually it means they have enough or they have something, and they'll pause until they get that in its entirety. So whether that means that they have enough to arrest someone and question them, we don't know, but generally that's the go. Later in that statement, they did say, as I mentioned, that they would restart the search as it was needed and as information was provided. So they were obviously hoping to get answers somehow. They just didn't disclose that. So this same day, the Wednesday, James Wood, the male housemate, he's then arrested by police. They didn't charge him, okay, and the reports out during that period said he was assisting them with their inquiries, but then released him on Thursday, the 5th of June. Okay, so this is where it gets a bit fuzzy. This can be a bit infuriating when you're not sure what's going on and everybody's like, why did they release him? Like, what are they doing? Are they mad? But sometimes there's a method to their madness, okay? They can have things set up. I don't know in this case, but they can have things set up like undercover patrol cars to follow, or like recording devices, mapping devices set for that person or others that they might think are involved. And they're basically waiting for the cherry on top, or so to say, which would be enough to press charges. So again, we don't know the specifics, but that's just one avenue of opportunity there. So sometimes they do this deliberately, and to the public it can be like, what the hell, why did they let him go, and like, would he go on the run and things like that. But I can almost guarantee you they would have all eyes on him once they let him go. I just realised, sorry, my microphone cut out. I just realised that my Bluetooth speaker just turned off in the background. So if you heard like another female talking, it was her. She's from Kmart, and she's got an Aussie accent. So she was just turning herself off. Okay, so where were we? So we don't know the specifics there around, what they were doing to keep tabs on James, but they would have been. So come Saturday, right? Phoebe's mum, she decides to make a video, and that video is then released via the police, where she said, and I quote, "I still hold hope that Phoebe will come home, but I have to consider the possibility that she won't." So she was basically making a plea and giving a personal update there. I don't know how everyone else felt about this video if you have seen it, but I found it odd, personally, that she continued to refer to her daughter in the past tense. That's just a little feeling that I had, but anyway, moving on. Let's jump ahead a little to Thursday the 5th of June, which is last week. So James Wood, the male housemate again, he's aged 34. He is arrested in Bundaberg at 7:20 p.m, 3 weeks to the day after Phoebe went missing. So Tanika Bromley, the female housemate, who's 33, she was also arrested, and the charges are as follows. Both facing 1 count each of murder and 2 counts each of interfering with a corpse. Following the news of their arrest, the police said that they will allege that Phoebe's body was moved on more than 1 occasion. So if they're making this, they're alleging this and they're going to put it to them, then they've got, something that aligns with this, which is usually the situation. So there's actually been the body-worn camera footage of the arrest. You can find that online. He's dressed in he is James Wood. He was dressed in grey tracksuit pants and a tight-fitting T-shirt, and he was escorted from a caravan that was like entirely disgusting and covered in mess, as was the place of residence. And he was taken outside, and you can hear one of the detectives saying, "Just listen to me," before identifying themselves as a detective sergeant from the Bundaberg police station. They then continued to say, "I'm placing you under arrest for the homicide of Phoebe Bishop," to where the footage shows James in the back seat of a cop car before they closed the door. So if you want to have a look at that clip, I'm sure you will have no trouble finding it. So Friday, June the 6th, police released another statement saying they have located remains when in the search for Phoebe. And those remains have been sent for forensic testing for identification purposes, which is where they remain at this point and have not yet been confirmed. The remains that they did locate were in the vicinity of the Goodnight Scrub National Park, and they were discovered by a specialist unit at around 2:30 p.m. that day. So that day I had made some live updates on TikTok as these statements were released by QPS. These updates got a bit of traction and quite a few questions, so I'm just going to go over the main theme of the questions that are still relevant. A lot of them are not, because there's since been updates, but one of the main comment themes was prosecution without a body. So let's get into that. So, sorry, I had to run. I had a delivery from Temu. Okay, I'm back. Since the remains that were found have not been formally identified in this scenario, if we assume they're not Phoebe's, can we prosecute a person, or 2 people in this case, over a murder without a body? So that has been a common question. The answer is absolutely. No-body murders were actually my specialty group in my last job. And I had similar thoughts when I got given that role. I was like, what the hell? Like, how am I meant to work on this? But of course, here in Australia, thank you to Haley Dodd's family, we have the no body, no parole order. So if someone is prosecuted for murder and they don't give up where the remains are, then they will not be eligible for parole if they don't disclose where the remains are. But, of course, outside that law, yes, the answer is yes. There are many ways. What is going on? There are many ways a person can be charged without the remains, and I'm going to go through a couple of those just off the top of my head to give you a better idea and understanding. And essentially, there's a situation of strong circumstantial evidence of death. So even without a body, the prosecution can argue that a person is dead based on the totality of the evidence, okay? So that can include the sudden disappearance of a person without explanation, no use of bank accounts, phones, social media, Medicare, and things like that, leaving behind dependents, pets, and other responsibilities that they wouldn't usually voluntarily abandon. An example is Bradley Murdoch, who was convicted of the murder of a British backpacker, Peter Falconio. This was back in 2005. So in that case, Falconio's remains were never recovered, but there was strong enough evidence forensically and circumstantially to convict Murdoch. So that's one way. Then there's confessions and even incriminating statements. So a person of interest's own words can be used against them. So whether that be what they said to authorities, informants, or like a conversation's been recorded, that can be used as key evidence. So some people give a full confession of murder without disclosure of the body's location. They like that power of control. Some people give partial admissions, like statements that suggest their involvement or knowledge of. What's an example there? What about Christopher Wilder? He was suspected of a number of murders that, and in that case, he made a statement that implied he was guilty. So some of the victims were actually never found in that case, but circumstantial evidence was heavy and it tied him to their disappearances. And then, of course, there's the forensic evidence itself. So while a body may not be found, there could be blood spatter, tissue, DNA evidence at a scene. All of those things indicate death, particularly when we have no remains. So digital evidence is a huge one, like social media, TikTok, texts, and that sort of thing. But in terms of digital evidence as well, GPS and mobile data, that plots a person in a certain location that is proximal to a key location of interest. And then, of course, the deletion of any records and, trying to paint themselves in a different light, suspicious searches like the mushroom chef case that we spoke about that's happening right now, making internet searches about death cap mushrooms. And then lastly, another method, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Another method used in no-body murder prosecutions is witness testimony or even accomplice testimony, which is possible when there's more than one person being arrested like there is here. So that's interesting. But I think I might leave it open for more questions now because the case is pretty updated. I'm giving you the most recent updates. And most of the other questions were prior to the murder charges being laid and things like that. So now a lot more information is available. I can answer those questions if you have them. I just want to touch quickly on the GoFundMe situation because I like to usually share the GoFundMe as relevant to each missing person case and things like that. But this one's a bit weird. So in a nutshell, there was a GoFundMe circulating on behalf of Pheobe Bishop and her family, which wasn't actually authorised by her family. Someone just set it up. So Phoebe's mum actually came out and she pointed that out. And she said, this wasn't me. This wasn't authorised by me. And then one that was authorised by her was set up. So a second GoFundMe account. And that was created essentially to assist, I think they said, the funding for like the searches, money to go back into things like one of the local schools that was good to Phoebe and things like that. So I'll try and locate the correct link and pop that with this episode. Just keep that in mind if you are planning on making a monetary donation because I would hate for you to donate to something that's actually not going to the right cause. But in terms of things coming up, I will continue to update you on Phoebe and her case. But coming up shortly, we have another episode for Jack McLennan, who's still currently missing in Queensland. We've got a bit of an update there in what's happening. We have a new case of a young man who was shot and killed by the Queensland Police, and the fight that his parents are currently enduring with the legal system in regard to that. We also have a case that's actually semi-local to me for a change, that being in WA. That's a gentleman who went missing. He was supposed to board a train from country WA to Rockingham, which is literally 10 minutes down the road from me. He's been missing for some months. He went missing in January, and as you can imagine, there has been very little exposure from police. They're off the top of my head. What else have we got? We've also got a case that's a couple years old in the New South Wales area. That's another missing man. He is getting next to no exposure as well. And then, of course, we've got to go deeper into the Diddy trial and the Mushroom Lady trial. If you've got any case requests, just message me. You know where to find me. I'm happy to cover most cases. I do have another missing man in, I believe, Queensland that I was going to look into, so that's on the list, but I haven't started that yet. I try and be as responsive as I can, but I'm just a one-man band, you guys, so forgive me if there's a slight delay. I don't mind a double message or a triple message even. Just yell at me. Happy to get back to you, happy to cover most cases, but we've been getting a little bit more traffic and comments and feedback, so I really appreciate it. I put a lot of work into this, like I've told you guys, and you're probably not interested, but I have quit everything else going on in my life to pursue this. So it means a lot to me when you give me feedback and make comments and share and things like that. So thank you so much. I will be able to reward you a little down the line when we start our merchandise and things like that. But for now, you just get a big fat thank you. And I love you and thank you for being here and allowing me to do this and spread my knowledge. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. You know where to find me. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed it here. If you have, you can subscribe to stay up to date on new episodes, or you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok. Please feel free to jump onto our Facebook group to join in on the case discussions. You can find the link to our group in our podcast notes. As always, stay curious, stay informed, and until next time, trust your instincts and keep seeking the truth.